Well, good evening. It's 11:30. Don't look at that clock. I never did put it on this correct time. We had to spring forward. Anyway, I give it a bedtime story. Um, it starts off with Caucasian or white European people. Uh, um, let's just say, for example, Spain, France, and Britain when they first was looking for America, and you heard they thought they had found India, and the story goes is that they couldn't understand in some parts where they saw like sort of an Asian looking, so they assumed they came down through Alaska, like how the Russian comes, like from Afghanistan to Russia and down, anyway, but a lot of them they were island hopping, like all the way along and hitting California, and when they hit like Mexico, just like below Florida there, they found pyramids, so they thought they were in Africa. So the story goes is that since they had found, they didn't think there was uh, another continent that was exact same as Africa, or another landmass, the continent that was the same size as basically the European continent. So I think that's how you call it, continent. But anyway, um, uh, and so the whole objective when they came to get the minerals and to get to get their wealth, they came to get their wealth. So the story goes is that they decided to make it to where black folks wouldn't recognize that they came from here, that they actually came from like South America around the equator, where it was so high that it produced, dark colored melon humans. And the story also goes like the reason why our hair was curly because we were water people. And what they meant by water people is that they already had been coming from Africa to South America over here. So the story goes is that these tons of ships were coming over and driving off white folks. And the white folks would just come and just killing, mutilating, and then claiming the bounties of war, which would be like the property and all this. But the most important thing they had to do was eliminate anything that looked like the society or the world that they was at. Like you'll hear about when they found the city of lights. They'll say, "Oh, well, they had all the things painted white." No, they had electricity. They had trains, cars, planes, and things here, but only like for what like I guess you might like they sort of might call them a shaman or line one, or but they were their scientists, and their scientists were not only male and females, but um, uh, what made you a greater leader is that how much information you passed on to your child, because it's very important to them to pass on for the mother and father to make sure they pass on information to their child because of the survival of the community. And so the story goes that's one of the first things they did was pretty much kill the enlightened ones. But so the United States decided that, like when it was forming, that they didn't want them to know that, that this was black people's land. And of course, they had some that was still alive, so that created a problem, and that's where they started taking the kids and bringing them in with the church. And the church, I don't mean any disrespect for any Christians and religion, but you gotta understand they already had the three religions: Muslim, Jewish, and Christian. All of them using the same book. All of them, using different ways to the way that like they decided they could control, because this was people that had never seen really war, and it to the white man that was like all about oh, it's all about for men and oppressing the women already. It seemed like the women were running, but it was um, not run like that. But anyway, so the story goes that so like that like they decided to make it like top secret, and one of the reasons why they totally wanted to change and have like black people move into like from the rural area to the city is to get their land. And like in Mississippi, Alabama, and a lot of places, even Tennessee, they left somebody at the homestead, more than like, somebody, a few bodies. And like went to places like Detroit, uh, Illinois, um, Kansas City, places like that where they were, in New York City where they were manufacturing stuff. They got into manufacturing stuff. They wanted to get them out of the rural, get them from, like, because they were like, when they came here, just like, the reason why they thought it was still Africa, because there was fields of cotton that they saw, because like they grew, their own clothing, uh, uh, they and they grew all their own food, and they were basically, for all intents and purposes, pretty much vegetarians until you got more inland, and then because like they sort of subsidized it with being fish, so they were mostly vegetarians that ate fish, you know, um, and some and so so like so and like one of the things they would do is to bring the like because like these people were valuable. They because like if you look at the United States now, like the story goes longer, but if you look at the United States now, you can sort of look at what they were talking about. And like to use the example during uh, this term period of times with the like for example Carter, um, Peanut, but he was, like, his, he was worth a lot because his family had, lived off the land. They hadn't been, um, um, like, having missionaries from the church come and sort of program them to to live what they would call like a civilized way, opposed to which meant really they wanted them into a slavery way, the capitalist, because before they was like they was producing their own stuff. They wanted metal. They'll extract out of rocks themselves. Hey, these people would do things with limestones that was explosive. But anyway, so uh, getting back to the three religions, those are like basically it was broke up to the three of the like the way it split power. Like if you think about Europe and stuff, but and so the whole thing was so they wouldn't recognize and or you couldn't go back to living free. You couldn't go back to growing your own food. You couldn't go back to growing your own clothes. It wasn't like because European was more like they just used animals, other animals for clothing, and like wool and stuff like that. Were they hadn't really caught on to how to do cotton until they came here. Um, so that was supposed to be the story is that when European came over here, not only did they think the American natives that was in Indian from the country India, they thought the blacks were Africans from Africa. It wasn't until a little later that they found out, especially when they hit California and they saw the heavy influence of Asians that was pretty much, like coming down the coast too. It was sort of like, but they would come along on boats too. They would island hop too. But supposedly, and so you had some footing. And that's why they were saying they never did finish like the railroad to up by Utah, where like because the white people they killed the people that was working for them. They had these people hired called penitents, I believe, and they became like a private investigating later. But at the time, their job was really just to kill anybody that was Indians and Negroes. Indians, Chinese, and Negroes. Happy 4th of July. No, no, never mind. The white folks are coming. They're killing niggers, Indians, and Chinese because there was a big Asian thing. And so as you look at today, well, during that time, there was a realization of what, them, slaughtering their people and genociding their whole culture and the land, because the land to them was a sacred thing that was uh, that had to keep keep that they had to make sure that they keep nourished the same way it nourishes us, because because to them it was a live thing. Everything had some life to it, life force. If it was moving, etc., they on its own they considered it sort of a life force. The fluid was running through it. Well, anyway, so they decided to like some of the scientists and the people being mistreated so bad to give them misinformation. And like I was alluding to the Carter guy, supposedly, he was trying to get his people to eat heavy, but because of now their big influence in the religion, they became um, it, it's like a child that's waiting for Christmas. They became waiting for like their death so they could have a better life in this type of mind thinking. Just to someone that hadn't been introduced to Christianity. So, but in this they learned they forgot how to live off the land because they taken them away. A very small child, and um, nobody taught them. So anyway, so he decided it's like the white people that was like trying to get all the secrets on how to per, keep food preserved for a long time, and how to utilize this food, because basically the kings and queens they owned the food, and that's why you hear Robin Hood and they were stealing the king's deers and stuff because they were starving being on the king's land. But anyway, so what he did was he served them food that would cause them to have got, like their ankles will swell up, and cause them to have diabetes and other health problems, because supposedly when they came to the Americas and they seen the black folks that was living off the land and uh, um, building these, their own structures, and they were, doing stuff. Um, they were surprised how old they were living. But what happened, like, the white folks supposedly was living like to about like 65-ish. So what happened was once they, um, instead of like prolonging everybody's life at that time, they actually shortened the black people's life by murdering them, giving them syphilis. That was the black man's krypton, sex. Um, because they went from being like not a promiscuous minded people um, to being introduced to like the prohibition. It's like the prohibition on marijuana is today. So oh, you can't, and everybody smokes it. Doesn't matter what the government matter. Anyway, so the moral of the story is that now we're living in the times of where the the curse that was put on the earth um, by supposedly a dying Sherman who said that your greed will slowly just be killing yourself. You know, because I guess like you can look at the Rothschilds and whatever. That one brother had cancer. They're not immune to the this stuff. So right now you're looking at the prediction of where they said it was going to heat up and be like a burning inferno, like being on the sun. And part of it is because of the roads we made to put our cars on, the way the fuel industry sort of manipulates, so we fly more, drive more, but we don't use trains and other modes that might help. We don't use solar energy or wind energy, other stuff that we could utilize. So with our cement roads, for our cars, are tearing down the trees, uh, uh, especially in this neighborhood, in greenery, the way we have changed our food and destroyed our natural habitat to such a way that it's not maintaining itself, that this has been predicted as how the earth will die, because the earth will not be able to maintain. Uh, and it doesn't matter, like their logic is because it says won't be able to maintain as many humans as it had before. So that was one of the things with like trying to genocide a lot of people. But the thing is like that it won't be able to maintain any life. So as many as before, is less is less. So even zero is less. So So that's the top secret story. Is that uh, when the white people came over here, they thought they found India and Africa.